That brings us to item number 3, which is a presentation and discussion by Dr. Greg Watson, University of Arizona, regarding the Arizona Invocation and Technology Corridor. We have at the podium Tim Knavel. Thank you, Tim, for being here.
Good morning, Chairman Smith and members of the board. Earlier this summer, the board approved an IGA with the University of Arizona to do a study on the proposed Arizona Innovation and Technology Corridor. Dr. Greg Watson is in charge of that with the U of A, and he's here to give a presentation. One of many that he'll be giving as updates throughout the time that we'll be conducting a study. So without further ado, I'd like to present Dr. Greg Watson.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Honorable Chairman Smith and Honorable Supervisors. It's especially a privilege to be here with Louis and Tim Knavel. I can't tell you how exciting it is to be part of Pinal County. It is
that's a great start, Dr. Watson.
It's an absolute joy. My name's Greg Watson. I prefer to be addressed as Greg, if that's okay. It is an exciting project that we have here in collaboration with Pinal. Could we move ahead to the third slide, and let's skip past this first map that's on the second one. The project that Louis and Tim brought to us in collaboration with several other entities really bookends, thank you very much, really bookends a lot of strategic assets from a lot of different parties. So we leveraged 3 different counties' economic assets, 2 state universities, a lot of regional utilities, a lot of local and international business partners. And so when the project came to me, I looked at it and I just said, wow, this is exciting. This is pretty incredible. Why haven't we been working on this before? Because the assets that we've got sitting here and positioned in Pinal are just absolutely incredible. It's truly, truly exciting. So I'll take about 10 seconds to tell you a little bit about who I am. My name's Greg Watson. It's a privilege to be at the University of Arizona. For those of you that love ASU, I've also taught for ASU for about 9 years. So I can put my left foot in one field and my right foot in another field. And so I can wear whatever hat you need me to wear, and I'll be able to cheer along with you. I've spent the better part of my life as an entrepreneur, and so that's where my heart really lies. I started a lot of businesses. I've been described as a serial entrepreneur. I've also been the research director for 2 different economic public policy think tanks. And I decided to retire at age 42 after basically making all the money that I needed to make as part of my life. And I give back as a way to teach young minds in the university environment. So that's what brings me joy, to live vicariously through young minds. So I do love the work that I do, and I love when projects fall in our laps like this one to be part of Pinal. If we think about some of the economic assets that we have here, we've got an incredible convergence of resources here in Pinal County that just, I don't want to say doesn't exist anywhere else in the United States, but really is a really rare commodity. We have a mixture of combination of rail, an incredible access of abundant, very affordable utility, not only nuclear utility, but other, we have incredible solar array utilities that are being developed out here. We have affordable land. We have natural gas. We have all kinds of energy that's available. We have an incredible workforce that's available right here within the county. Most of us don't think about it in the context of it migrating out of our county every single day, driving into Phoenix, driving into Tucson, going to work local. But we have an incredible, abundant workforce and labor force that's available right here. We have an incredible amount of business that is existing right here in the county. We have incredible economic programs. And so when we start talking about economic development and we start thinking in the context of location, we just have this beautiful, beautiful location here in Pinal. And I'm incredibly excited about it. That's evidenced by the fantastic work that our county officials, that includes you, have done. We've got over $15 billion of projects that are on the books, and that if we actually include some of the unannounced ones, that's rapidly approaching $20 billion of projects that are on the books right now of new economic activity that's coming into the county. This is incredibly exciting. And
Greg, before you move off of that, I would like to suggest that one of our economic assets that's missing from that list is the Pinal Air Park.
Well, I don't have space to put everything on here, or we'll be here until next week. And the last thing that you want to do is allow anybody that's been a professor in a classroom is give them a podium and a microphone, or otherwise we'll be here way too long. So we'll be letting them talk. Oops, I started moving that clicker way too much. We've also got fantastic businesses. So we've got, I didn't talk about exactly the point that you raised. We've got access to 3 airports. So we have rail. We have an inland port study that's being done by ASU that I will be collaborating with. But we've got an incredible amount of local businesses that are within our county. We love talking about those big names that are coming from outside. So we love hearing about Lucid Motors. We love hearing about Nikola. We love hearing about some of the big companies that are coming to the county. But we also have an incredible entrepreneurial base right here within the county. We have incredible developers. We have incredible development companies. I've been really excited that Lewis has done a fantastic job of facilitating some introductions for me. I've loved visiting with them. But we've got an incredible entrepreneurial group of developers and businesses right here within the county. And I'm going to get back to that because it's really important for us to listen to our local communities and our local businesses. So when we think about Pinal, we have the ability to leverage shared county assets, not only within Pinal, but also with our bookend counties when we think about what we have with Phoenix on one side and Tucson on the other side. So we're leveraging assets that include some assets of airports that we don't have to pay for, that aren't coming out of our county budget. So we have a workforce that exists within Phoenix, a workforce that exists within Tucson. We have airports that we aren't always necessarily paying for. We've got universities that are sitting in Phoenix, and we have universities that are sitting within Tucson, as well as community colleges. And we get to tap into all of these resources to facilitate development within Pinal County. This is incredibly exciting. We have direct access to California. We have direct access to Mexico for doing supply chain management for businesses. And this is an incredibly important part of economic development. So we have the ability to cluster our business, cluster our industry right where they want to be able to develop and foster their supply chain. Right now, we have a lot of businesses that are shipping, and this sounds ridiculous, but we have in the automobile industry, we have components that are crossing the Mexico border as much as 7 times in the manufacturing process, where a component gets started in Mexico, gets shipped to the United States, gets transferred back to Mexico, back into the United States, back to Mexico, back into the United States. And there are some parts that cross our border as many as 7 times before they finally hit retail consumption. That is what our supply chain does. We are truly a global environment, and Pinal is ideally located for this. Now, I like to tell a story that I attribute to a gentleman, an economic development professional named Ernesto Ciroli. And he shares the story about New York City back in 1860, where they brought together 100 of what they thought were the greatest minds to try to figure out how do we strategically plan for the future of New York City. And they were looking at an incredible population growth, and they were trying to figure out the logistics of city growth. And they got these great minds together, and they said, we're looking at the population growth of the city of New York. And these great minds said, can't happen. Not possible. Because if the population growth of New York City continues on the trajectory that we're projecting that it's going to occur, we're going to have 6 million horses in the city of New York just to move people around. And the amount of horse manure, my father would use a different word for horse manure, the amount of horse manure that it would create, we just can't handle it. So New York City is just not capable of growing. It's going to stay exactly the same size that it is right now because it's just not possible for it to grow. And we all know that today New York City is huge and it has grown quite tremendously. The reality is that innovation, technology changes, the world changes and moves along. And if we talk to our entrepreneurs, if we talk to our businesses, if we talk to our business leaders, we listen to what our community has to say about what do they want to have happen, the world is going to change very, very rapidly. And by 1900, there were 1,001 automobile manufacturing companies scattered across the United States. We had car manufacturing companies in just about every county that had a decent population size all across the country. And New York City wasn't moving people around with horses. They were moving people around with different forms of automotive transportation, buses, trolleys, trucks, and transportation wasn't being done by horses. And so New York did continue to grow. It grew quite rapidly. Well, we want to take a look at what does Pinal need for the future and what kind of exciting opportunities are there for us out here in the future? What kind of infrastructure do we need? What are our best current assets that we have? What are our best current companies? What are our wonderful entrepreneurs thinking about for the future? What is the public and private partnerships that we need to strategically think about in order to make those kind of transitions possible? And to me, this is incredibly exciting because we get to look at all of these incredible assets that we have ideally situated right here in Pinal County for this kind of a future. Now, if we think about it, those 100 incredibly intelligent experts told New York City that it's not possible. We can't grow because we're going to have 6 million horses, and the horse manure would just not be possible for us to deal with. My father's got a different word for horse manure. Well, the reality is that Ernesto Ciroli would tell us that we've got to listen to the local people. And Ernesto Ciroli likes to tell a different story about how economic development aid was being brought to Zambia in Africa, and they were teaching people how to grow agricultural products. And back home, they were growing these little itty-bitty tomatoes, and he's really an animated kind of person. And in Zambia, they were growing these great big tomatoes, and he was really, really excited about how awesome their education was, and they were just really doing this great job of teaching these local communities about how to grow awesome tomatoes. And they were going to feed the local population, and they were going to solve all these local problems. And just as the tomatoes got to be ripe, hippos came up out of the river water, stomped through the gardens, and ate all the tomatoes. And they were devastated because the crops were lost. And he asked the local people, he said, "Why didn't you tell us about the hippos?" And they said, "You didn't ask." And they found out the reason why in those local communities they don't have local agriculture, they don't grow things right there despite the fact that they have a beautiful climate, is that agriculture doesn't work due to the local animal population, the wild animal population that's right there. So when I put up here that we listen to understand, not respond, we listen to understand what the local communities need and want. This is incredibly, incredibly important for us to realize that it is absolutely essential for us to understand what do our local communities want, what do our local civic leaders want, what really works in Pinal County, because if it doesn't work for our local population, if it doesn't work for our local communities, if it doesn't work for our local elected officials, it's not going to work. So when I came in, I started talking about the fact that we have to go talk to our local civic leaders. We have to go talk to our local community leaders. We have to listen. And we have to listen to what they have to say, not listen to respond and tell, but to listen to understand what is important and what works. And so with the guidance of Lewis, with his very careful instruction, with his very careful guiding hand, with the support of Tim Canavel, I have been in every single community. I've spoken with every single city manager. I've listened to every single economic development official. I will continue to do this. I will go back to all of those communities again, and I will continue to meet with them. I will increasingly meet with city leaders. Lewis has done a fantastic job of helping introduce and facilitate meetings with local business leaders, local entrepreneurs, local developers, to understand what the vision is for our future, what the needs are for our future. And I tell you these stories not to be long-winded, but to make sure that I communicate a very heartfelt, very passionate belief that this is a partnership. And so when we created an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement between the University of Arizona and Pinal County, this is an intentional, a purposeful partnership, strategically designed for us to work on creating a vision for the future that is collaborative, that is collectively something that is a workable roadmap for the future. And here's the structure of this particular partnership. We're working on it in 5 phases. Phase 1 is an inventory and a roadmap of our current state of our infrastructure, our strategic assets, our strategic resources. That includes what we have been doing in the past, a little bit of our history. Phase 2 is a stakeholder assessment of what is our vision, what does everybody care about, what do each of our communities have to offer, what are their core assets, what are their core visions, where do they want to be in their future, what is their culture, what is their cultural values, what is the flavor of their communities and their neighborhoods, what do they want those neighborhoods to look like today, and what do they want them to look like 20 years from now. That is what that stakeholder assessment is. So we're communicating and collaborating with our key stakeholders within the county. Phase 3 is a technology and an infrastructure assessment and also a roadmap for the future. That is where we collaboratively work and we create that roadmap and that vision for the future. Phase 4 is a draft final report that we will collaboratively work behind the scenes with our key leaders, our key community leaders, those that have that key vision of the future, so that we can collaboratively work on creating that vision for the future, that everyone has that buy-in. After all, we don't want the hippos to come out of the water and eat the tomatoes. Our goal in the end is to develop that final report that is a real working product, not something that gets dusty and thrown up on the bookshelf. When I first came, I asked for a whole bunch of reports, a whole bunch of studies that other people had done, and I found an awful lot that were in the file drawers that often had gone unread or read by just a few people. That's not the vision that we have. That's not the vision that we have collectively created between Lewis and a number of other key stakeholders. So this is what our partnership is all about.
Greg, have a question.
Yes, sir.
For the final report, what would be the life of the final report? I certainly don't want to put it on the bookshelf, but yeah, I would assume it's a living document that should be active for 5, 10, maybe 20 years. What's the window of opportunity?
So we're looking at what is our roadmap for the next 20, 25 years, and what assets do we need to put into place, and what do we need to start now? Because in many cases, in order for us to get to someplace 20, 25 years from now, there are pieces that we need to start putting into place today. There are pieces that we need to start putting into place 5 years from now in order to be able to start to put assets into place 10 years from now and 15 years from now. If we just think about the strategic planning in terms of how long it takes to get some of our road projects built, these are very, very strategically long-term projects. And so as we start looking at the strategic planning it takes to put some of these into place, we're really looking at 20 years.
Thank you.
So what's next? I'm going to continue with this theme. We are listening. We are out in the communities. We are working with all of our stakeholders, and we are listening. Because if we do not have that key core value, that key core buy-in, that key core collaborative effort of all of our partners, we will not be successful. So we've held meetings with all of our cities. We will be back within all of our cities. We're in phase 1 and phase 2 of our inventory roadmap and our stakeholder assessment. We will also very shortly be beginning our technology and infrastructure assessment. We'll be collaborating with ASU on the rail and inland port project that they're working on. Thank you very much for approving that. It's all part of what our strategic planning for the future is. And I'll be happy to work with anybody that you bring to the table for this. This includes some of our local partners, not to favor any specific person, but there's a nice little snippet of one of our key local entrepreneurs, local developers in the bottom right-hand corner of this particular slide, and we are listening to everyone. Eloy and Coolidge, man, they're doing incredible things. Coolidge is just, they're night and day different from where they were at a year ago. Shovel-ready data centers, cool things going on. It's exciting, and the strategic planning that Eloy did is just equally exciting. Of course, they've got some incredible assets that are sitting there in Eloy as well. A lot of people want to drive by Eloy and they don't want to think a lot about it, but there's a lot of incredible assets sitting there in Eloy. It's exciting to travel through the county. I have been in every single city. I have stayed at many of our bed and breakfasts, tried to do it as anonymously as possible. My wife and I have been shopping for real estate in almost every community to try to better understand what our housing environment is like. So we spend a lot of Saturdays touring houses to make sure that we understand what different towns and different communities' real estate inventory is looking like. We want to know exactly what the labor force and workforce environment is like and what housing availability and affordability is looking like. So we've been spending a lot of weekends in Pinal. My wife is going, when is your project going to be over? Because there's 2 communities, 2 neighborhoods that I want to buy property in. She's looking at it from an investment perspective, and she's going, when is your project going to be over? I've got 2 houses I want to buy. And so she's just about as excited about this as I am. So this is what our project is all about. I'll shut up in just a moment. And we're looking at what companies are best suited, what are our infrastructure capabilities, what do we need to enhance, what public-private partnerships do we need to create, what kind of marketing campaigns, what kind of marketing opportunities are there, what kind of state and federal assistance can we tap into to support this, and what's the political support that we need to engender to create for this. So that's a real quick highlight of what our project is all about, and I hope that you've gotten a little bit of a flavor, a little bit of a perspective of who I am and what my style is like. If you have any questions, I would always be very happy to talk with you. Tim Canavel is right behind me. Talk to him, and he can coordinate setting up a meeting to visit with me. I would be delighted to visit with any of you at any time. I hope to be in each of your districts on a very, very frequent basis. Usually I'm there relatively anonymously, trying to collect as much data to listen to the community, listen to your local entrepreneurs, listen to your local business partners, to collect as much information as I possibly can. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them, but I think I ran way too long.
Thank you, Greg. Let me see if the board's, we got Supervisor House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is interesting because I think this all came about from about a year or so ago. I met with the agricultural reach out gentleman from the U of A, came to my office. He comes to all of our office and gives us an update. And he had mentioned something about all this land, and I said, whoa, wait a minute, land? And so one thing led to another. I turned it over to Tim and said, Tim, you need to follow up on that. And so this has come quite a distance from there. It's very remarkable to see how everybody's come together to make this happen. And it's really, really unique, I think, situation here in Arizona. So I'm just excited and can't look forward to see just how much this is going to change Pinal County in the future and the whole area of Arizona, quite honestly, because it's just grown. It's kind of like an amoeba. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger on its own. And so I think it's great that it's gotten this far and we've been able to assist you in continuing to get it going along. So appreciate the comment, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question, general question, I guess. From your presentation, did it indicate that you have met with businesses already in the Pinal County area or in the corridor area?
Yes.
I was, okay. And if you don't want to divulge that, that's fine. I don't know. I just wanted to be clear that that's what you have already started that process. Because in economic development, for me, I think sometimes we don't put enough effort in retention. And I really believe that there's some low-hanging fruit there for some of these companies that are there that we would like to see expand. So,
I think that our economic development team and our county leadership here care passionately about our local businesses and the growth opportunities that the future presents for them. And so I think that they understand very significantly that this future is incredibly powerful for our local workforce, and that includes opportunities for retraining and maybe creating more jobs for people staying here at home as opposed to driving into Phoenix, driving into Tucson. And that's the real power and the real vision for the future is that this is an exciting opportunity for growth right here at home.
right. If there's anything we can do to get rid of the bedroom community situation that we tend to have at times
Exporting
here.
our jobs, yeah.
Yeah, because but if we can get those good paying jobs here, they work here, then they coach the little league team, then they're in the PTO. They do things that they're not traveling. They're able to participate in their community a lot better.
There's an awful lot.
Just a philosophical.
There's a staggering amount of economic growth we get excited about those big names from outside that come in, but the real power is in the small and medium-sized growth that occurs within the county in terms of its natural growth for the future, as well as the auxiliary growth that spins off from those industries.
I agree 100% with that statement, and thank you very much.
Greg, the final report, do you have a target date for when you would like to see the final report delivered?
So I would like to see that done in this next spring. Now, whether that gets sped up or slowed down is going to be a function of data collection, and when I have great cooperation that I've received from the county like I've had, that gives us the ability to speed this up a lot faster than what we would normally be capable of actually doing. The real power is in our ability to collect more information from our communities, and that's where things become a little bit more challenging, because if we want our local communities are so short-staffed and they're so busy, and I don't want to say that they're overworked, because that's not necessarily the way we want to phrase things, but to truly get the voice of our local city leaders, our local economic development officials, and also our local businesses, that's where it takes a little bit more time. And how fast we can move that process as we fan out through the county, that's where the greatest challenge in data actually will be. But the county is phenomenal. So our county response time is just absolutely incredible. So they've gotten almost all of the data into me that I've requested, and it's extraordinary. So we're doing phase 1 and phase 2 concurrently. We're about ready to launch phase 3. So we'll be doing phase 1 and phase 2 and wrapping them up while we are launching phase 3. And so we will be moving this thing along far faster than what we anticipated. I gave both Tim and Lewis the fastest time about 5 months and the longest time about 15 months, and ask them, when do you want it done? What's the joke about the accountants? What number do you want it to be? We can get it done as fast as we need it to be done. We've got some county budgeting time frames in February that they would really like to have the draft report done by February, so that way things can fit into the strategic planning process of the county for county budgeting purposes in February. So a big part of my goal is to make sure that we are all but done by February.
Okay.
Whether we're able to complete that is really subject to a lot of other people's time constraints.
And then my final comment is the inspiration I've had for Pinal County, I experienced first in the city of Maricopa when it was developing from when I first moved there of about 3,000 people. It's about 55,000 today, but back in 2003, it was pretty much an empty canvas of opportunity. And so that was quite inspirational that we had a wonderful opportunity and participation by learned professionals like you who found it an opportunity to take the theory or the practices that they've have thought about and apply them to a blank canvas. We also were able to attract many young professionals who also were very inspired by the appearance of basically a blank canvas. The same is true with Pinal County. We have a blank canvas reasonably here. We've seen this board in the years that we've been up here have seen quite a revolutionary change within Pinal County. And this is just a continuation of trying to figure out where does the canvas for Pinal County, what will it look like in 10, 20, even 50 years. So thank you for being a part of that, and I think that I share your excitement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, it's a presentation. There's no action for the board. So thank you for coming, Greg, and Tim, thank you for being here and bringing this forward to us.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Have a good day.